All right. I'm Will, aka ZombieNikon, and I'm here with
Jake, fully vaxxed, waxed, and ready to party.
All right. We're going to talk about stuff. So, how have you been, man? I've been off work for the last couple of days, so it actually has been. I know we always joke about it, but it's been like several days since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been a minute, a hot minute.
Yeah.
Everything's going good. Just had my 7-year anniversary with my lovely wife yesterday, so that was a good day. Just hanging out and whatnot.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, just having a good time. Living life and all that kind of jazz. A couple weeks will be the kid's birthday, so we're gonna see how that goes. And then crazy shout out to Tom Kirstein, who is one of our first sponsored individuals for Mediocre Experts.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Went to a 40K Dallas Open, and he went 5-3 with his Knights list, which is not a meta list, so to say. So pretty good. He ranked 56 out of 172 competitors. So top 1/3 with a non-meta list is pretty solid.
No, that sounds amazing. I mean, you know more about Warhammer than I do, so it sounds like you made quite an achievement doing that stuff.
Yeah. Right now, the meta has a lot to do with objective secured, is what they call it, which is just taking objectives on the battlefield, and Knights don't have a good way to do that. So still being able to win without an army that can function that well in the game is pretty solid.
Yeah, so is that like capture the flag, or is it like A, B, C, D, with like battlefield? And
you have like 6 points on the, you have 5 to 6 points on the field, and as your models hold those points, there's different things that can happen with it to give you various points and things like that. So it's pretty solid showing.
Yeah, no, dope. Congrats to Tom. And I rearranged our podcast setup station area, whatever you want to call it. Rearranged my whole room. So like that's what I've been doing over the past weekend was just cleaning the entire upstairs of my house pretty much. And so my like stream setup is all like changed and different. I have like a 1080p setup now, which is pretty cool. And then hopefully, because I noticed in the other room when I was editing all of our audio for the podcast, it was really echoey. And I found out it's because I don't have like really any posters or anything on the walls in there. And that's part of the reason that, I mean, this is mostly decorative now because we actually have good microphones and stuff. But
right.
It does absorb some of the sound, and we're farther from the walls, so it's not just echoing all.
Yeah, it's
all
not just bouncing straight off.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll sound a lot better. I don't have too much other stuff to get into as far as pleasantries. I was on Reddit a lot over the past few days.
Yeah,
and it's really it's a whole place. They've gotten real weird over there. So I have quite a few like D&D topics to talk about today. I don't know. I know you, because I was just ranting last week pretty much. You also had commenting on comment stuff.
Yeah.
For later in the episode. What else has happened? What else did I do? Oh, I watched The Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Nice.
I'm sorry, Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
Because, oh my God, I get it now. I get it. I fully understand it now. And I think that was my problem with the series was I didn't really understand why, what is his name? Anthony Mackie?
I think so.
I didn't understand why Falcon was so hesitant to take up the shield, because I thought, I was like, Cap gave it to you, you should be better about it. And then they explained that in a very good way. Obviously it had a lot to do with racism and what, the Stars and Stripes stand for and all that stuff, getting into it, and they did it in an amazing way. I loved it. That was such a great end to such a great series.
No, I fully enjoyed it. One of the best things that I really enjoyed is the subtleties that he is Captain America, much like Steve Rogers, made other people heroes instead of everything about him.
He brings other people up as opposed to just kicking them down like the other jackass, whatever his name was.
Yeah. Not Captain America.
Failure. The failure.
Yeah, exactly. U.S. Agent, I think, is the generic name they give him. Yeah.
And he's had, apparently that guy, John Walker is his name, has had multiple different iterations of, he was Captain America, he was U.S. Agent, he was something else. And then the other side of that too, spoilers incoming for those of you that have not watched it, skip this part. The dude, his teammate, his friend.
Yeah, Battlestar. Yeah.
I cannot believe they killed that dude off. Hardcore. I was not expecting that.
No. And then the rage, the hardcore rage.
Just slamming down that shield, man.
My lovely wife pointed out something to me that's the character earlier on that actually said, I used to love Captain America as a kid too, and everything that he stood for. And then who does he get killed by? which is crazy. The blood rage that he goes into and just murders that guy right there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because and that was one of the things too is I think Steve Rogers was they it's all about like taking hits and getting back up, which they explained beautifully with Falcon turning into Captain America and all that fanciness. I loved it. I don't really have any complaints about that one. I also watched Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
And I don't know if did we get
Saturday.
a chance to talk about it last week?
No,
Oh no,
'cause
I watched it and then you hadn't watched it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you finished it now?
Yes, I watched Mortal Kombat. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's a lot of people out there who I guess didn't, reading reviews and stuff like that.
Why?
My lovely wife doesn't like the editing of it. It felt too quick, where it was snapping scene to scene, and it was it's kind of giving her a headache. And then it makes it too fast paced, where you don't really have a breather in it, which is fully justifiable.
Yeah,
you know?
it was a little cheesy. I don't think it was overly cheesy, but there were definitely moments where it was like they were trying to like train and like unlock their powers, which is like that's a fucking anime trope where you like just get beat up until you like unlock your power. Yeah,
hardcore watching it. As soon as I got about halfway in and they hadn't really started the tournament or anything like that, I was like, oh, this is just a movie to set up the universe.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's all it is. And it almost feels like you could watch the next Mortal Kombat from like the 1990s, because they brought old Johnny Cage into it, like at the beginning of that movie. So you might be able to just leap into that one. So so I do think this was a good setup movie. That's my opinion of it. I don't think it was going to be amazing or just mind blowing right off the gate. I think
right out the gate.
Right out the gate. And I think the main part of that, it was essentially they were setting up the universe and setting it up to where like the next one they might actually have a tournament or some stuff like that.
Oh yeah. That's exactly what I thought they were doing, because they didn't even have a tournament in this one. Again, spoilers, but like they fought all the bad guys, which was also a strange thing because they killed off a lot of cool characters. Yeah, like the flawless victory. Did you remember that thing?
Yeah,
with, not Kano.
Flawless
Oh my
victory.
god. The guy with the hat.
Yeah.
Why can I not remember his name?
At least my superpower, I hope to God it's not hat.
From Kano? Yeah. Oh, man, I cannot remember that.
Kano wins. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Chung Lao?
Kung Lao?
Kung Lao?
Kung Lao.
Kung Lao, there we go.
Kung Lao is the guy with the hat. And then I kept wanting to say Shao Kahn, but that's the big beefy guy, the ruler of Overworld.
Yeah. Well, so I think they killed off a lot of characters, but the workaround there is you have the sorcerer, and he manipulates souls and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy for him to bring them all back.
I was thinking that he was going to do the whole like undead arc that's from I think it's like Mortal Kombat 10 or Annihilation or something like that. But he if I'm not mistaken, it's Quan Chi. And he brings back like a bunch of the other. No. This one's I keep want to say Sun Tzu. God, Shao Sung or whatever.
Yeah, we're struggling with these names. I'm gonna print them off so we can just have them up there.
Oh, I know it's not that big of a deal. But that because there's two different sorcerers, right? Quan Chi and then the other guy.
Yeah,
the one that was actually in this movie. And Quan Chi is the one that teams up with, or like he's underneath Shao Kahn, whatever you want to call that. And he ends up bringing back a bunch of people from the dead.
Right.
All right. Well, Cat, you're gonna have to move.
He's just exploring.
He is exploring.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, I do think they're going to bring a lot of those characters back if there's a second one. I don't know if it's been greenlit or anything like that.
Yeah,
depending on reviews and everything like that.
Bree was seeing like articles where they were talking about how everyone wanted Ryan Reynolds to play Johnny Cage, but at the same time, like I like Ryan Reynolds. He's good. He could do all the like Deadpool like fighting and stuff. But I think the concept behind Mortal Kombat is that they're using actual like fighters, like people that actually know their martial art, and they are just beating the shit out of each other. And I think that's to prevent a whole bunch of cuts and all that stuff, to have like one fluid fight and to make the game make it feel like a video game, right. So I don't know if they're gonna use Ryan Reynolds. I think he's also too A-list now. And there were a lot of B-list actors that were in this one, which I thought was amazing. I'm glad they did that.
I think other than the actual Asian actors that were Sub-Zero and Scorpion, I think those were the only two like well-known actors in the entire movie as far as I was tracking.
I don't even know who those guys are.
I think they're really popular. At least Scorpion, I have seen him in a number of
kung fu movies,
like kung fu movies and stuff like that, kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I know that he's big there, but everyone else, like the main character, he had only done commercials before this movie, so that's about as below the radar as you can be as far as an actor.
Oh, and then obviously the guy that plays the whatever the fucking main villain guy's name is that I can't remember, Shang Tsung. That's who it is. The guy that plays him is also a major actor. I've seen him in a number of like movies where he's the evil villain. So,
which I guess that gives those characters more potency, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
you know, they kind of stand out a little bit more in those regards. No, I was entertained by it. I definitely enjoy turning my brain off and just watching movies though, so I don't look at a lot of the like technical sides. If that makes sense.
I do all the time. Dude,
so I enjoyed it.
Well, because we talked about this with the Captain America and Winter Soldier was the very beginning of the movie. They're in like I think a C-130, and you have the French dude that he's like beating his ass and all that stuff, and it's completely inaccure. Like
because they're talking about this level right here. Like, hey, and a C-130 that's really like
it's fucking insane. So no, you can't hear shit.
Well, and then actually, again, my lovely wife, there was a C-130 scene in Mortal Kombat, and it was loud as hell, where they were like yelling at each other and everything like that, and my lovely wife was like, "Are you happy now? Are you happy that like it was loud?"
Screaming?
Yeah, which was good. It's a great point. Like that technical accuracy.
Yeah. So I don't know what we're gonna get into next, but I have a couple things that I wanted to talk to.
Yeah, I've got a pretty in-depth topic for commenting on comments. I've got an easy one and a pretty in-depth one that I feel like would be a good subject matter.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
So one of the first things I want to talk about was it's actually it's a really lengthy topic, which is why I'm not really doing it for comments on comments.
Right.
It's how to encourage your players to invest more into their characters. So the guy had the question of blah 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 blah. Perhaps there's more quadrants deposit them. GTA lifestyle. He basically is asking like, how do you get your characters to role play when they're at the table? Like, how do you get them to they build backstories? They have this in-depth lore that they build. How do you get them to care about those characters and actually role play them? Like,
right.
What do you do, for instance?
So I do think that individual ownership of a character is always something hard to invest into everyone, and you can kind of get some people there, but ultimately there's going to be some people who just won't get there, and whether that's a small conversation you have to have off to the side of like, hey, are you enjoying this is what I'm going for, that kind of thing might help inspire those individuals. I actually, and I'm going to talk about homebrewing later and the balancing that you have to do with it, but a big thing for me is personalizing things to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in this previous campaign, I actually had an assassin rogue, and his arm got hacked off when he died, and so he gets brought back, and now he has this robotic arm that actually functions as like a +1 weapon and has like a feather that it can shoot out as a dagger that magically reappears at the dawn of the day. So even if he loses it, it comes back, kind of thing. And like and kind of giving him that personalized, like, hey, this kind of matches you, this is that kind of thing, kind of helps them feel more invested, more unique as a character. Kind of lets them bring out that role-playing aspect. You know?
That's ultimately what I was going to say too, is like it's all about encouraging your players to like role play, or encouraging your players to get invested in their characters. You have to give them things to be invested in. And that's exactly what you're saying. So for instance, I have Althea, the cleric in the campaign right now. She's never really been into like role playing and all that stuff, and it is awkward, especially around a bunch of random people, right? But that's literally what I've been trying to do, is give her like, her family is missing right now. She has to go and figure out what's happening with them, which means she has to talk to people, which means she has to interact with the group and tell them what's going on. She has just a whole bunch of like random dreams that she gets from her god, like things like that. Just it's hard to come up with for some characters. Like, I don't really know how to get, well, I mean, you just explained a rogue, but for me, like, rogues and rangers are probably some of the hardest ones to get invested in stuff, because a lot of the rangers are the classic, like, oh, I'm gonna go into the forest and commune with nature and shit like that.
Yeah, what's your backstory? I'm a hermit who's lived in the forest for the past 32 years.
Yeah, so maybe making it more awkward for them being inside of a city or like in an urban environment, because you've never been around that many people.
Right. Like, I think setting a baseline as well, that everything's okay. You know what I mean? Well, I'm not going to say everything, because that opens up a huge book. But that it's okay to role play your character, right? You don't have to do a voice. You can do what you're comfortable with. Yeah. You know, that kind of thing. Like just talk and get in the mindset of, this is a different thing. What kind of decisions would that individual make?
The other side of this too that I had to do was instead of having a player say, hey DM, I'm doing this, or hey DM, Althea is doing this, you have to say, well, do that thing, right? Like, so if Althea was like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to Whistler and invite him to come to the church with me, then I'll be like, you don't tell that to me, you tell that to Whistler, right? Like, talk to him. I don't exist. I'm the DM. I'm a non-biased god over here. That's it. Like, and so that's another way to get around that stuff too, is have them actually interact and do stuff like that, or have, I mean, I have like props and stuff too. So like, if you have a puzzle that someone needs to actually solve, like, figure out that puzzle, put it on a piece of paper, and hand it to them. Right. Give them something visual to look at. Give them something like tactile to interact with. It just depends on the type of people you have. It's like, well, I mean, it's like learning, right? So I don't know if you've ever done any like teaching classes or anything like that, but there's different types of learners, right? So like tactile, you know, visual, written, all oral, all that stuff, right? So you have to figure out what type of players you have, and then gauge that stuff to them
and cater it to them to a degree, right? No, and that makes sense, and it does go back to knowing your players and actually investing in them, you know, because one character may not care if they get a cool item, but if they get a note from a figure in their past, that might bring them in a little bit, that kind of thing. No, I definitely fully agree with I think the DM knowing their players and bringing them in is a great way to start, because you're going to get in what you get out of it, or you're going to get out what you get in it, what you put in it, essentially. Good Lord, can't talk today. But essentially, it's a lot of how much time and energy are you willing to put into like what kind of role playing they want to do and that kind of thing. Establishing those rules and
that's the big part too, establishing rules. So the DM's whole job in D&D, especially in 5th edition, is to understand the rules and to interpret them and then put them forth on the table, right? So moving right into the second thing that I wanted to talk about, which kind of goes hand in hand, is this guy says, sometimes I don't understand players. He gave like a specific list of stuff people could be. He was like, hey, I need your backstory, I need this, I need that, like get it to me before we play. And he was like weeks out, and one of his players just randomly sent him like a pre-made character that was a race that was homebrewed, that the player just found on the internet. He didn't talk to his DM. He didn't do anything like he's supposed to. Right. And then the DM's like, yeah, I guess I'll just let him play it. I'll homebrew it for him, make it balanced. But I just wanted to rant, and I was like, no, fucking stop. Like,
not without talking about it.
Exactly. So at the same time,
going, this is something I want to do.
It's a balance, right? And that's what I'm getting at here. Is if you are a DM, if you're a dungeon master for D&D or whatever, it's a balance. You have to be like, hey, this is my world. I created it for you. Build a character in it. And then if they come up with some off the wall like homebrew crap, you're like, no, that's not allowed. Or if they're like, oh, but Xanathar says I could do this. No, it's not allowed. Like I say it's not allowed, right?
Right.
Because I'm the DM.
Well, and then
so it's a balance of like getting them invested and then also like keeping out all the excess bullshit.
And then keeping it out at bay, right? Yeah, because their homebrew is crazy on how broken it can be. Right? Yeah. And this is something that I was going to mention later on. However, this is the perfect time for it.
I'm going to actually let you talk this week.
Have you ever heard of a creature? And this is a homebrew creature. I looked up high CR stuff for another reason, and I can't even pronounce this. The name is the Avada Kedavra. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But that's on the D&D wiki for
Häagen-Dazs.
Yeah.
Häagen-Dazs.
Yeah.
5,000 hit points?
Yeah.
And 1,000 fly speed?
Yeah. So
how big is it?
Titanic aberration. No, dude, this is the funniest thing that I've seen. So the rest of them have a little bit of a balance. For those listening, CR is a huge thing in
challenge
D&D.
rating. Yeah.
Challenge rating, and what it dictates is what your characters are able to face. Right. Yeah. The highest CR that is written in an official D&D book is CR 30, and that is Tiamat and a Tarrasque. Those are two things. So that is the cap right there. Yeah. Right. And there's a reason for that, right? They have a high AC, but you can still hit them. Like you can still defeat these creatures and stuff like that.
And those creatures still only have about 500 hit points, 500, 800, not less than 800.
Yeah.
No, what I'm getting at is no one has over 1,000 hit points.
Oh no, this thing's beautiful as in far as how broken it is, right? And the description is that it's like a planar thing that goes and eats entire planes of magic and all this kind of stuff. But it's hilarious to read because it's like, oh, there's a ritual you can do to seal it away, maybe kind of thing, right?
Fuck.
It's immune to all magic. It's immune to all conditions. It has a passive perception of 65. It has an AC of 50. Yeah, no, this thing's amazing. A strength of 110, dex of 75, con of 150, int 150, whiz 120, charisma. This flying spaghetti monster beast has a charisma of 90, apparently.
What the fuck?
Saving throws all. So, yeah, dude, it's amazing.
How? Why?
Someone wanted an in-world event that I guess you couldn't find with anything else. Like, this is 100% a homebrew thing.
Yeah. Obviously, there's no fucking way that's balanced. But the whole idea behind world-ending events is that you could still overcome them, right? Like,
yeah.
So why put stats on something that you know is going to end your game? You see what I'm saying? It's going to survive everything that you throw at it anyway. So why the fuck put 5,000 hit points out there like you're going to be able to defeat it?
100%. It has like 15 actions it can do in a turn, and they all automatically hit. It doesn't say roll. It doesn't say a plus. Like if it had a strength, a plus 50.
See, and this is why people are fucking stupid, because I get that, like, okay, so Robin, right? My character, my beautiful, lovely little man-child Robin, he became a god. Tanakh became a god. But those two characters, just because they're gods doesn't mean they can't be defeated. They still have hit points. They still have, like, ACs. They still have all that, like, armor classes, everything. Saving throws.
Yep.
Right? So Robin, like, there's an alternate history for Finrath that's Apocalypse World that we talked about. I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but we talked about it IRL. Yeah. And in Apocalypse World, Robin becomes like an evil god.
Yep.
He doesn't like take up his mantle on the endless speeches. He doesn't do any of that. He basically just destroys the world. But I still put in stuff that you guys could have defeated him. Like, you guys could have fought him and then prevented Apocalypse World in the alternate history of Finrath.
Right.
Why the fuck would you have a world-ending event and then explain it? I thought the mystery of it was what makes it, like...
Right.
That's what makes it scary.
Well, also, like, world-ending events don't have to be something that's literally undefeatable in any way whatsoever. An AC of 50, you literally can't hit unless you roll a natural 20 on things.
Yeah, because it auto hits with a natural 20. But, like, so that means you have a 5% chance to hit it with every attack. Yeah. And then it's immune to all magic, so if you have, like, a magic weapon, you're not hitting it. Or dealing damage, at least. Yep. What the fuck? Like, why would you do that? Why?
Yeah. And he actually submitted a paragraph as well, explaining that it wasn't a joke and that it's a serious monster, so it needs to be added back to the list and all this kind of stuff.
That is a joke monster. That is not serious. Like, having a stat block means that your creature is defeatable. I don't see a way outside of, I wish it was gone. But that's not a hero thing. That's not your characters overcoming shit.
It saves anything that it would go towards it. I mean, Wish technically doesn't force.
Wish doesn't have a save, so you can literally just wish that it doesn't exist. That's like the only way to get rid of it. Right. Unless he has some stupid bullshit in there that says it's immune to Wish.
Right.
Which, if he does that, that means there is no physical way to end this.
Well, that's all the rules that it has.
Oh my god.
So it's got and it can create copies of itself. It is hilarious to read through. But the Nosh is completely broken. It heals. It does all kinds of stuff. But it's not even broken in any way that's fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not like a clay golem beating a Tarask. Yeah. It's just obnoxious.
It's someone was like, what's the highest number I can think of? 150. Cool. Most of its stats are above, 50, 75, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's not a joke, guys. It needs to be added back to the list. How is it not a joke? Like, how... Tell me in what world a normal, like, even a 20th level party could defeat that creature.
Yeah, well, and that goes...
Tarask, they could whoop the shit out of it.
The only way to defeat it is with a ritual. That's it. There's a ritual where you have to
spend 10 minutes surviving all 15 of its attacks every round.
Oh, yeah, and it does...
you have to survive 60 rounds.
It does, each time that it automatically hits. It doesn't say even roll, which technically you would still roll. You would just add 75 to it whenever it rolls. Yeah. It knows all skills. It's adept at performance at a plus 45, by the way.
Oh my fucking god. Stop.
But so you can do this ritual, and it's foretold that it can come out, and you need like the skull of a fiend and all this kind of stuff. And so to me, to me, making a challenge doesn't mean that there's only one way to defeat something.
Yeah.
There are multiple avenues to defeat it. And
Yeah,
like
there should just be
about,
one ritual to do
like
that.
you talked about with Robin, right?
Yeah.
Is if a high enough level party took him on before, or even now that he's a god, there is a chance that they can reduce him to 0 hit points.
100%.
What happens at that point? Who knows?
Because he has a divine moat, you can't actually kill him outright. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of what makes the gods in Finrath immortal. But you can still banish him.
Yeah,
so like, you
exactly.
can fuck him up enough to where he's like super low in hit
Exactly.
points and then banish him.
Right, and the party may not know all the different ways to do it, right? And that's fine. But there needs to be multiple avenues. Homebrewing is like one of the dumbest things to break because it's so easy.
Yeah,
it's
because you're just like, oh, he has a
and-
150 for his
and
charisma.
I'll admit that I've come up with some really dumb homebrew items that are like legendary or artifact level things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there is a balance to it, and you have to be very careful whenever you're handing those kinds of items out. I gave a player the Sword of the Dragon Master, which I talked about, where he can actually absorb a dragon into the blade, so he can walk through a cave with, with his companion.
Yeah.
Oh, 100% anime, and it's like a 3d6 weapon, and it's doing all this fun stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And essentially,
3d6 also isn't 150 d6 or an auto success. Like, you can break things without actually breaking them. Does that make sense?
And the very last thing is that you can assume the form of the dragon avatar, where you gain a flying speed of 60 feet and then a strength of 25 for 1 minute. You can do that once a day, right? Which is fun. It makes things more complex, but it's also for like 15th, 16th level, so it doesn't really break it too much. Like you said, it's not just like, oh, I rolled a hit. That's a 2 plus 75 does a 77 hit your AC. I don't know. What do you think? You know, like that kind of thing. No, and it's ridiculous.
Dumb.
1,000 feet flying speed means that you can never do anything to it. It's resistant to everything, all conditions, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 1,000-foot fly speed. Why? If it's a titanic creature, you give it a 30-foot fly speed and it'll still take up half the board.
That's Emrakul the Aeon's Torn from Magic the Gathering, essentially.
Yeah, but we all know that 15 squirrels can take out
15
Emrakul.
flying squirrels.
Yeah, 15 flying squirrels can take out
100%.
Emrakul. So.
You know.
Yeah, fuck Emrakul. Well, it's Squirrel Army. I got to show you that too. That box set I got, the unsanctioned one, fucking
Really?
amazing.
Yeah, is it? Oh,
yeah,
good.
dude. It's got like Johnny Cheater hands or something in it, and you can literally like you have them in your hand, and it says if Johnny Cheater whatever is in your hand, Johnny Cheaty Face, that's who it is.
Yeah.
If Johnny Cheaty Face is in your hand, you could sneak him onto the board, and if no one notices it after a certain amount of time, then like you could do something else.
Nice.
It's just funny. Like you literally just like, oh, it's in my hand, and then you just like lay it down on the board.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then going back to multiple ways to defeat things, even Emrakul, you can Moonlace, which turns any spell colorless, and then Doomblade.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can Moonlace into a Doomblade to kill an Emrakul. Like, it's not actually difficult to get rid of her and stuff like that. Just most people don't have options in hand for that, you know? But yeah, homebrew, like, I don't even know why that's a thing, right? You could have given a creature 40s for all the stats and still had a similar impact. 150 is unnecessary in any way.
Yeah,
shape,
that's
or form.
obnoxious is what it is. Like, you can give all 30s to all of your stats, just like what the game dictates, and you would have a broke-ass creature.
Yeah, I also, like, as far as actual physics, which don't exist in D&D, are concerned, I'm pretty sure that something that is titanic in size, moving at 1,000 feet every 6 seconds...
would destroy worlds, literally, yeah.
Yeah, like, it would, like, gravity, you know, like, is a thing. Yeah.
Oh, my God. So many things go into that. That's why people say that dragons can't fly. Right?
Yeah.
Because dragons, like dragons would have to have like hollow bones or whatever in order to fly. But then their body weight wouldn't be supported by the hollow bones. They would just break, right?
Right.
So there's a whole fucking science behind why dragons can't fly unless they're magic.
Right.
So it's the whole thing.
Yep.
We're gonna change pace here a little bit because I'm angry. So we'll move into actual like commenting on comments because I have a couple things that like rules types things we're gonna teach.
Oh yeah.
For a little bit. Let's get some shadow boxing going. There we go. Don't I have a... Oh. Commenting on comments.
Yeah.
So, we have a couple things here. I have more Reddit bro bullshit that I wanted to talk about. It's a really stupid question. It'll take you 5 minutes to answer. 100%. I guarantee it. And then we also have, from our Mediocre Advice Outlook, at mediocreadvice@outlook.com. We had one of, I think your people you knew in your past that hit us up with a question. So we'll get to that later. But the first one is, this is probably a stupid question, but ... when a player wants to say shoot someone, would they have to roll initiative first, engaging in combat, or allow them to shoot, then roll initiative and start combat? So I don't know if you wanted to like read it a little bit.
No, I get the question.
So basically, he's saying if a player tries to shoot someone, like with a bow or whatever, do you have them roll initiative right away, or do they get like something else? I know the correct answer to this, and I'm about to say it, but you how would you rule this?
Rules as written, right, is they roll initiative, then it begins a combat turn-orientated thing. They would have surprise at that point in time. Whether the surprise condition lasts until they actually get their bow off and all that kind of stuff depends on the rolls and all that kind of stuff. I have had like sneak attacks from like a sniper that took out somebody that I didn't add them into an initiative count or anything like that, because the intent there wasn't for it to actually be a combat. It was a like they were interrogating an individual and that person got taken out, and then the sniper from 1,000 feet away fled without them seeing him, kind of thing. But yes, so rules as written, you would roll initiative, and then whoever you're attacking, even if they don't know they're being attacked, also rolls initiative.
Yes.
And then if you go before, they're surprised for that round.
So, what ends up happening? No, so in D&D 5th edition, there's no such thing as a surprise round. That's something I think we've been doing wrong.
Right, surprise condition.
It's a surprise condition, yes. Yep. So as soon as someone is like, I would like to shoot my bow, or if anything is happening, like an attack is happening to or from a player, you roll initiative.
Right.
No combat, no attacks happen outside of combat. Right. So if you decide, oh, I want to cast a fireball, or I'm holding fireball, as soon as you start to cast fireball and weave that magic, you go into combat, like you roll initiative. Now, that being said, the DM is the one that determines surprise. So if you have, say, an assassin rogue that has a shotgun in his arm, it may or may not have surprise that doubles the damage and has a whole bunch of other excess bullshit that happens, right? So you roll initiative, and if you get a 19 and the target gets a 20, on the initiative count 20 at the very beginning of combat, you place a little marker on him, or as a DM, you say he has surprise, so end of his turn, surprise condition ends or whatever. Well, sorry, it's the end of the round, the surprise condition goes away, but surprise, move to initiative count 19, you attack, you get surprise, which means you can have advantage or whatever with a whole bunch of like other rogue feats. Go all the way back to initiative count 20, that guy's no longer surprised, and then he gets an attack against you, right? He gets a reaction. So
exactly.
Raw, that's how it works. No, from what I understand, there's no combat action, as in like no attacks that happen outside of combat, which is kind of crazy. When you think about it, but at the same time, it's supposed to be that way. That's kind of the same reason that when I play D&D, I rule chase scenes. So if I have like you guys on a horse or on horseback running away from zombies or something, then that is based on initiative, because it's all based on movement in a round. It's all based on all that stuff, right? So that's how I rule it, and that's how it should be ruled, because that's the correct way to rule it. But it's one of the like top 10 rules that people fuck up is surprise in 5th edition.
Right, and I think a big determination there again goes to the lateral nature that the DM has. If this is just a completely unsuspecting person, but they happen to roll higher than you as the DM could be like, okay, I'm going to give them surprise one more round. You really could, like if everything was right, but that would be outside of rules as written.
That is outside of rules as written, because surprise is only on the first turn of combat.
Exactly, but again, that would be a determination, not the standard. That kind of thing. Because in all honesty, like if someone had a gun to your back and you had no idea, you'd be surprised even if your reflexes were slightly quicker on the initiative count and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, same thing with like, you also have to remember, and the reason this most comes up to me and this most irritates me is because of spells. There's always a wizard in every fucking group that I've ever played that's like, I cast fireball before he does anything. And it's like, oh, I don't cast my spell. And it's like, no, because you're going, Vusroda! Like, it's a lot different than fucking, just pulling back or like stabbing with a dagger or pulling the trigger on a gun or whatever type of game you're playing, right? So it's a whole thing. That's my spell. You can't cast more than one spell per turn unless it's a cantrip. Right. Because you're just snapping your fingers and pointing, right? But I just wanted to cover that because it was something that someone asked a question, and then I got like really downvoted because I was really mean to him, I guess. So I had that one, and then did you have commenting on comments from last week, or did we already cover it?
I do have commenting on comments from
when I was just yelling at people.
And this is an old one that I dug up. The mountain is stronger than the Tarrasque.
The mountain is stronger than the Tarrasque.
So this is from Reddit, D&D Next, from 6 years ago, right? The mountain broke a 1,000-year-old strength record by carrying 650 kilograms for 5 steps. And then they go into the math of it essentially, where strength is 15 times your strength score, or your lifting capacity is 15 times your strength score. 650 kg is 1,433 pounds.
Yeah.
So he has a strength score of 47, according to that, or a strength modifier of 18. And the strength of a Tarask is only, it's 30. Yeah, it's a strength of 30. So they're saying that he's a lot stronger due to carry capacity.
So
right?
you're talking about the mountain from Game of Thrones.
Yes, the mountain from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, the world's strongest man, or was the world's strongest man for like several years.
Yes. Now, the one thing, a lot of these comments are hilarious because they're all like, oh yeah, this makes sense, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of them are like, this isn't a carry capacity thing, it's a strength check.
Yeah,
He's not
that's what I was
actually-
thinking in my
Yeah.
head. I was like, or he could have just rolled a nat 20 that one time. Like,
Yeah, it's 5 steps. He didn't
Yeah.
carry this person for 8 hours.
yeah, he
or
didn't
anything
actually
like
just
that.
carry it around. Like,
Exactly.
That doesn't.
So,
that's not his definitive strength score.
Yeah, and then someone was like a DC 25 strength check per step, but still, like, inside the rules of D&D, right? So mythical creatures don't actually exist, but if you have a dude who's 8 foot tall and like 350
Goliath?
pounds, he's probably a Goliath, which
He's a Goliath.
doubles his lifting score. And then if he's a 20th level barbarian, he could be sitting at a 24 strength, which 24 then doubles to 48. So it would make sense that
Yeah.
he could pick that kind of stuff up. So
Yep.
it's fully within the realm without, again, homebrewing over 30, because 30 is the highest stat that's available in rules as written D&D right now, right?
Yeah.
And then
So you just completely like explained. Yeah, that's the correct way to interpret this. Is it's not. He did it. It's strength checks.
Yes.
Hell, I would even put it as like a con saving throw.
Yep.
Because you're literally having like you strength check to lift it up, con saving throw to maintain it. Like.
Yep.
That's all based on his own like body and everything else.
And then what was it? Bear Totem could help his carry capacity. One
He's a
person,
bear totem barbarian.
yeah. And then one person was saying that he was enhanced by artificial means, and I feel like they were mixing artificial versus like tailored, if that makes sense, because they were like, oh, his diet's very specific and all that kind of stuff. Artificial would ensue that.
Yeah,
he
dude,
had-
the mountain has never been on any kind of like steroids or any of that
Yeah,
shit.
exactly.
That man is literally just 8 feet tall
Right,
and
right.
massive. Like,
and I
he also
kind
eats
of-
like 30,000 calories a day. He's
think-
a YouTube channel.
Right. I think they were just using artificial in the wrong capacity.
Yeah, people are dumb.
I would say.
No, fuck that guy, Jacob. Don't defend him. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, technology that goes into nutritional supplements and machinery, into construction, modern workout equipment.
Still
all that kind
fucking
of-
completely
still-
wrong with
Yeah,
all of those words.
hardcore. No, yeah. And then what I also like though is the other thing that people didn't take into account, right? Is that the larger the creature is, the higher the carry capacity it has. So since the Tarask's a giant, what size is it?
Gargantuan.
Since it's a gargantuan
Or
creature,
I think it is a Titan.
yeah, Titanic.
Titanic
Yeah,
or
so it is a Titanic creature.
Why am I
means
even
that
asking? I
it's
can fucking pull it up.
right. It means that its carry capacity is way higher because it's a higher modifier as it goes up, as you go up in size and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, true. I mean, there's no rules that actually break that down other than like creating a monster in the DM's guide. But
Right.
I see what you're saying. How do you spell Tarask?
Oh God.
I got it.
TAR.
I got it. 676 hit points for what I was trying to say earlier as well.
Nice.
It is a Titan. Yeah. So it's
Yep.
one of the only ones that's actually modeled as a. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm a fucking idiot. It is a gargantuan monstrosity. So its size is gargantuan, and it is a Titan creature.
Right. Gotcha.
Unaligned as well.
Oh no.
Oh, going back into the line. Oh, dude, Tarask could be chaotic evil because all it does is eat things. Fuck you.
But yes, I can't find the quote because I had a page number here. But essentially, the larger a creature is, the larger its carry capacity is as well, and that's why
Interesting.
that's why a Tarask can have a score of a 30 and walk around with a city on his back.
Oh, and that's why like all medium creatures, their max strength can only be 20 unless it's like artificially enhanced.
Yeah, exactly. And then and then the carry capacity of like an elephant, even though an elephant would only have like a strength of 18, I guarantee you it's way higher carry capacity than a human with an 18.
Yeah, it probably says something.
And that's
like it's lifted.
because your size categories increase that as well.
Yeah. So
That's my easy kill for the day.
yeah. Mine was just rolling fucking initiative whenever you get in combat. That's the default rule. So if you don't understand that, an elephant has an AC of 12. It is a huge beast. Trampling charge. Actions? No, it doesn't say anything. It does have a strength of 22 though, so it did go above it.
Right.
Oh man, you gotta get you one of these tablets. They're pretty dope. Thanks, Samsung. You are not a sponsor of this video. All right, well, do you have your next one? I wanted to save this one for last.
Yeah, sure. I was actually going to talk a little bit about the Lich, right?
Oh, Lich, please.
Challenge. Yeah, Liches be crazy. Liches get stitches. Liches end up in ditches. These are all comments on D&D Beyond, by the way.
Oh my god. Dude, I love me some Liches.
Yeah.
I'm a huge, I mean, my name is ZombieNikon, for Christ's sake. Like, zombies are my thing. That's my mistake, right? So, I love me some Liches. Necromancy's dope.
No, and it's actually a really good article. I enjoyed reading it, and the creature stat block and stuff. They're pretty powerful. Challenge rating 21. They're pretty strong. A lot of their layer actions make them really broken. I like that they have one use of power word kill, and then someone said that hail state. Said power word kill. You thought you'd get to play this game, but no. If you're facing challenge rating 21, just so you don't know, power word kill kills you automatically if you have less than 100 hit points.
Yeah, 9th level spell kills you. There's no save against it. It's just if you have less than 100 hit points, you die instantly.
Right. And to me, though, I don't think you should be going up against a full Lich inside of its lair if you're a low-level adventurer with less than 100 hit points.
Yeah, if you're a level 1, why the fuck are you going up against a Lich? You should be serving that Lich until you get strong enough to take him over,
right? Exactly. So that part of it's kind of funny.
Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft comes out May 18th. Hashtag buying and Beyond. Yeah.
Nice.
So Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft has a Warlock class, I think, that is Pact of the Undead or whatever.
Right.
Which is basically just Liches. They already had one that was Pact of the Undying, but this new one is like Lich specific, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I gave that Lich a phylactery. Liches love phylacteries. One person asked a really decent question. So while it's in its lair, one of the layer actions is that it can roll a d8 and then regain that spell slot, essentially.
Yeah.
So they're like, does that mean that it has infinite spell slots? Like, why wouldn't they cover their entire sanctum in all kinds of spells and stuff like that? Which they do.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Like, if you're walking through a Lich's tower, Lich's love towers, you probably are going to be encountering a bunch of like fucking things that he's placed around the tower,
exactly.
like a lightning rune that blows up whenever you walk over it or some shit if you don't notice it.
And then my favorite mentality, this comes from AWER. I'm not sure how to really say that. You think this is strong? See Mind Flayer Alhun Lich. It has a challenge rating of 41, which is why I actually looked up the Nosh and that ridiculous challenge rating and all that kind of stuff.
Wait, an Alhun Lich? No. It has a challenge rating of 22. That's what you guys faced.
It 100% only has a challenge rating of 22.
It's in Volo's Guide to Monsters or whatever, right?
Right.
Because it shows new Mind Flayers, Alhund Mind Flayer, and then there's a subcategory of there, like a box text.
Lich, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Don't talk to me about Liches. It's 22.
100%. Well, and that's what cracked me up about it, and that's why I had to do the research of the D&D wiki that has all the homebrew stuff that's been approved as homebrew things, and where the Nosh challenge rating 99 is, because that's not on there, right? But also it's only a challenge rating 21, which is still really high, still really difficult to deal with. But obviously, it's not supposed to be the most powerful thing in the game. So
you guys beat one at level 10. You guys were all level 10. There was 4 of you.
Yeah,
and you beat an out like a Mind Flayer Lich. Admittedly, one character died because it was a deadly encounter, but you guys won that encounter, and you challenge rating 22.
Yeah. No, and that's what's funny to me is just the mentality of, oh, you think this is strong? It's like, no, we're trying to read this for a challenge rating 21, not a challenge rating 41, which doesn't exist actually for what you're saying.
Yeah, dumbass.
And then someone asked why I would become a Lich to gain immortality, but I don't think Liches really gain immortality as the goal, if that makes sense. I feel like Liches more often, or it's a form of, they gain more and more power to the point they become immortal.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they're not even really immortal. Like, you mentioned phylacteries, right?
Yep.
So the idea behind a phylactery is it is a closet that holds your soul. So whenever you die, your soul goes back to the phylactery and then magically rebuilds itself, almost like a clone. So the whole idea behind that is that, I mean, if you're a skeleton or an undead Lich that doesn't have skin or anything like that, it's less stuff that you have to build with magic, right? And on top of that, you are undead, which makes you, immune to a lot of the normal ways of killing stuff. Like if you stab a Lich in the chest with a non-magical blade, it's not going to kill them.
Right.
It's not even going to hurt them, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
And then the last comment that I really enjoy, because they went into like clone would be easier and all that stuff, but Liches don't become liches strictly for immortality.
No, it's a whole ritual.
It's a power,
and all that
and
stuff.
it's a power influence kind of thing versus an immortality thing.
Yeah, it's also the wizard's way of getting immortality. Like, I guess everyone's just going straight to like, oh, why don't you just wish for immortality?
Yeah,
but like,
someone was like, oh, you could just use clone and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, but that's not really the point, right?
Well, think about it this way too, right? So if you're sitting here in this world right now, Jacob, me and you, in this real world environment at our podcast station right now, and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to clone myself. How the fuck are you going to do that? Yeah. See what I'm saying? People seem to like, they always draw themselves out of D&D, out of the D&D mindset, where your player doesn't fucking know clone. Like, your character, the guy you were playing right now, the one you were RPing as, does not know any of that shit.
Right.
So stop telling him that he knows it. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, when a lich, when a wizard becomes so powerful in necromancy, and they keep bringing shit back from the dead, that's kind of the concept. Is they are prolonging their life by just not dying.
Yep.
See what I'm saying?
No, that makes sense. And then the last comment that cracked me up, and again, this is what got me on the whole homebrew kick and looking at all the different things. And again, things like the Nosh exist for homebrew, right? DM for his heavily homebrewed campaign for 3 new players. No, this isn't strong enough. Additional 9th level spell added. More spells to choose from added. Robes of the Archmagi added. Extravagant amount of magic items added. More that you haven't seen yet, presumably added. Party's dead cleric in progress.
I fucking hate people.
Like, for real though, and again, this is what we're talking about when it comes to homebrew. You have to be very cautious as a new DM or an experienced
are you
DM
just
of
trying to
homebrewing.
kill your players at that point?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? So he's like, oh,
Liches are built to be
homebrewed.
defeated. Like, built to be defeated. Like,
100%. Challenge rating 21. It's not supposed to be.
What is 4 levels below that? 17? So if you're a 17th level party, it is an easy encounter for you.
Yeah.
That's how you determine that.
Exactly, which is crazy, and that's what cracks me up, because again, it goes into the, I homebrewed all these items for my players so they can destroy it easily. It's like, yeah, because you probably gave them like a ring of wish that gives you a fire shield.
Thanks, ring of 3 wishes. I fucking hate that guy still. We're going all the way back to the first podcast.
No, 100%, and that's the problem, right? Homebrew can be great. It can be a great way to bring people into role playing and all that kind of stuff. You just have to be very cautious of how much power you're putting out on the board and who you're giving it to. If you break every single one of your players, sure, you're going to have to make more difficult encounters, but you did it to yourself.
Yeah.
It's not the game that was written poorly in this instance, right? And I'm not saying that they're not things in D&D that are written poorly, like Jack of all trades and stuff like that.
Oh, fuck that.
You know what I mean? What I'm saying is that in this case, he did it to himself. So if he doesn't feel like it's a challenge enough, he should probably take away a lot of those homebrew items, and then it'll probably be a challenge if he's using the appropriate
Or just use a different fucking creature.
Yeah, or
like, why do you have to use a lich in your campaign?
Exactly.
Like, people think homebrew is just the only way to make things balance for a 5e party when it's not. Like, I have hardcore murdered players because I've actually started balancing my encounters. Like, super easy.
Deadly encounters and all that kind of stuff are supposed to
hard,
exist.
deadly, all that shit.
Yep.
All right. Oh man, no, not Bixby. Go away, Bixby. Bixby is Cortana, but for Samsung. I hate it. So, the thing I did want to get into, because we're running a little bit over time here. It's a comment again from mediocreadvice@outlook.com. Hello, avid listener. Not really the most informed with D&D. I found it hard to keep up consistently due to life. Oh, sad. But I'm trying to get back on the horse. As a DM, how do you work with downtime activities? Do you allow PCs to manage a personal life / business, or are they primarily adventure focused? If you do let them run a business, how do you recommend the crafting, smithing, mercantile, etc. processes be run? I ask because I'd like to run a barbarian, which is dope, who also smiths and does weaving for travel purposes. I don't really know what that means. As well as backstory. And I find that to be interesting additions to the roleplay experience, because that's pretty much what we've been talking about this whole time. What I have to say for that, before I let you talk here, Jacob, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Chapter 2, Downtime Activities. If you haven't read that book or looked into it, it literally has all of the unique ideas for downtime. It has activities that you can do, complications, rivalries that you can come up. Unfortunately, all of those are very DM dependent, and that's the downside to it. So they only really, they don't really, I guess, have a focus on roleplay unless that's what the DM wants to do. It's more just, unless they're carefully written, it's you're doing this thing, you're gambling, make a check, and then, you succeeded the check, here's some gold, right? Right. So it's not as roleplay oriented unless you go into it, right?
Right.
So that's the only thing I'll say about that. Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Chapter 2, Downtime Activities.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do, it is very DM dependent, and what they want to put into it, what you want to put into it. If you were that excited for downtime activities in that way and stuff, I'll totally work with you. Right? Yeah. A lot of that depends on what kind of campaign you're running, right? Are you running a static campaign where you're only in one city in the various area, or are you running a campaign that's all over a countryside?
All over Finrad, for instance.
So that part of it depends on it greater to me than the enthusiasm level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like let's say you're moving around, you're probably not going to actually have a store or a shop or anything like that. But if you stop in a city for a couple weeks and you find a blacksmith that's willing to let you use their tools and stuff, sure, maybe you craft a few swords to earn some extra gold, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you have a static campaign, I think NPCs are a great way. You hire a young man who's learning how to smith, and you teach him some basics, and he manages your shops while you're gone for a week or two here and there for an adventure, that kind of thing, right? And then when they come back for their downtime activities, your character's like, all right, I'm going to be in my shop. You know what I mean?
The other side of this too is actually doing, or actually trying to figure out what you want to do for the downtime activities, right? So there's been times where, let's say what you guys just did. You went from Ebengard Post, which is on the western side of Finrath, almost to the far north of the country, and you traveled 11 days southward to the capital of Finrath, which is in Windcrest, right? So through that 11 days, I was like, what do you guys want to do? Well, you're traveling, so you can't really just like smith, you know, there's no forge or anything like that, unless you're like a forge cleric and you can like heat up the metal or whatever. That gets into the magic side of it. There's no real way to do any of that. Right. But as far as just being on a wagon and like sewing something, you could figure out sewing. Like you could do all that stuff.
Yeah, like you said, if he's weaving adventurer's clothes and stuff like that.
There are rules built into the game for that with a lot of the supplementary D&D stuff. As far as how I would rule it, I love when people actually like want to role play those experiences. I love when people are like, I am a barbarian, I want to go fight some bitches. Right. And I'm like, all right, cool. Fight club, let's go.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And I love that stuff. So I wish I had players that were more invested in their downtime activities, you know, because I love building those worlds. But it's very DM dependent. And I think that we can give you our advice and we can give you our perspective on it, what we would do on it, but it really depends on what your DM would do. Right. And I think that's the only problem. Like enchanting items. Enchanting items is one of the most heavily debated downtime activities in D&D because rules is written, all you have to do is be able to cast a spell of some level and then you expend a certain amount of work weeks, a certain amount of gold, so time and gold, and then you just have a magic item. Yep. But like, what type of magic item? Is it a +1? Is it a flame tongue dagger? Is it an ice whatever? Like, is it the sword of badassery and awesomeness? Like, how do you determine those things? And that is all DM oriented, which sucks. And I hate that that's where this is.
Which highly customize the items, which goes into homebrew for people making broken things or underpowered things even. Yeah. You know, like I channeled a 5th level flame strike into this sword. All right, cool. You get a 1d6 fire damage extra. That's it. Yeah. It's like, so it's not a plus anything, you know, that kind of thing.
The other side of that too is alongside the downtime activities that's more for like the DM, right? So that's like where you're looking at complications, you're getting a rivalry, you're doing whatever. There's also in Xanathar's Guide it's either Xanathar's or Tasha. I think it's Xanathar's Guide. That's what I'm sticking with. There's a whole section on skills and how to use them with tool proficiencies. So you would just like scroll to that chapter, find Weaver's tools, and then you can read through all the shit you can use your Weaver's tools for, which as a player, that'll give you some idea of what you want to do. That way when your DM's like, oh, you have 7 days of downtime, what are you doing? You could be like, I want to make this, and based on this rule, I can do that. Right. So I'm saying, and then you just make a check, and then you're good to go. Right. Unless there's something like you go into like a weaver's contest or like a smithing contest where you have to make like 5 swords in a row and then you have several checks and it's a challenge now and then you got a rival who's a dickbag, you know?
Right, which is cool because
I'm already like fucking planning his downtime activities and I'm not even his DM.
Right. Well, and to me, that's where I go as well. Is what am I going to put into it? What is the player going to get out of it? Yeah. It's like, so like you said, now you've had this challenge, but now your name's known for things outside of the town and like people are becoming.
You get renown, which is also in D&D.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a whole optional role.
Exactly, and then a lot of it is what your DM is willing to do, right? If they're trying to focus on the story and they're not really focusing on downtime activities, it's probably going to suck, and you're not going to get to do as much with it as you want to, right? Exactly. In those instances, whenever the thing is a player to do is to remind your DM. So they're like, all right, you camp for the night. And you're like, all right, well, before I go to bed, I want to sit there and work on a piece of clothing.
For the
that kind of thing.
2 hours before I go to bed, I want to do this because I think, so you have to sleep for 8 hours, but if you're on like watch or something, there's no reason why, like if you're guarding the caravan or whatever that you're going with, there's no reason why you can't sit there and like weave something. There's no reason why, like obviously smithing, again, that's one of the harder ones to do because it requires like very specific tools, equipment. You got to quench in the water. You got to like forge stuff, heat up the metal, all that shit. So honestly, man, like barbarians are dope, but I would go forge cleric. If you really want to commit to the smithing side of things, I would go forge cleric.
Because then all you need is your hammer, and you could heat the metal yourself.
You also, it's more of a role play, but rules is written. You can just use your channel divinity to create something, which makes it seem like you just hit it once and then it's there with magic. But you can actually use that to be like your whoever your divine, God is, they are the one like channeling their energy into you.
Right.
And then you actually have to smith for like the next 2-3 hours or whatever.
Right, exactly. And then, but yeah, it's heavily DM dependent, but as a player, you can always like raise your hand at the table if they're glossing over things.
Hey guys.
I've used that as a technique whenever there's people talking, just as like I'll raise up just like a half hand kind of thing. That way people know that I want to have something to say, but I don't want to interrupt anybody.
Yeah.
And just be like, all right, cool. As everyone's laying down, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to just kind of work on this patch of clothing. And that's something that I want to become proficient at, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's a subtlety and see if your DM rolls with it, see what they expand on.
And that's really what we're trying to say here is that it's all about the effort you put into it, right? So if you actually look up like in the real world, like how do you weave something and you learn about that? Like how do you navigate a ship and then you use your navigator's tool for that if you're doing a pirate campaign? How do you smith? Like what goes into it? Watch Forged in Fire, right? Yeah. Just little things like that. And then you say like, hey, I want to spend time building a longsword and I do these 3 steps. Once you put that effort in,
right?
I don't know a single DM out there that will just be like, no, shut the fuck up and sit down, right?
Yeah.
Because then if they say that, you should just punch them in the face and leave their house, right? Like
that's how that should work. That's some of the reasons that we became DMs is because we weren't getting the same effort out that we were putting in.
Yeah.
In my case, I moved away from a lot of my friend parties that were playing and DMing and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it's effort in. Your DM has a lot to track on the board at any given point in time. And
so the less you make them track, the more you'll probably get away with, honestly.
That's also part of it too. You know what I mean? And then don't be a jag about it. You know what I mean? Don't be like, oh, I'm gonna smith a whole bunch of manacles, and then when people are sleeping, I'm gonna like
lock it around them with my sleight of hand skill. Like don't be
doing that kind
don't
of
be that guy.
That activity. But
same thing with like weaving. Like, oh, I'm gonna weave, but I'm gonna like channel magic energy into it and then make like a shift weave. No, fuck you. Stop. You're weaving. That's what you're doing right now. Don't make skill checks, right?
I would say that the one funny prank would be is if you are counterimposed to a character, is you sew them into their blanket.
100%, yeah.
Sleeping bag.
That's funny though.
Yeah,
that's a prank. That's you using your weaver's tools for something that's a joke.
That's
right?
a prank, right?
Yeah.
Versus just like, oh, I'm gonna like manacle them so they can't like, and then I'm gonna push them in water, or something like that.
No, stop.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we need to be getting out of here because we are well over our time. Closing things, right? As always, this is sponsored by Finrath.com. Go and read that. It's a homebrew world that I created. Finrath and Ebrium. Ebrium's the Elvish world. Finrath's like a human world. It has a whole history behind it. I love it. If you have any questions for us and want to know more about our experience, what we do, all that fancy stuff, just email us at mediocreadvice@outlook.com, or you can DM us on any of our socials. All the links for all of our stuff are going to be in the description of the podcast down there. And then I have a YouTube channel that I am currently working on changing and interacting with and doing a bunch of stuff. One of my more recent videos is 50 cent games, where I just went on Steam and I found games that are 50 cents and I test them out. I think I'm on episode 2 of it now, so that's a pretty cool thing. And then I'm streaming on YouTube now exclusively. So trying to get my numbers up. Go sub to my channel.
Nice.
Is there anything else you want to
add? No, just keep spreading the word.
Yeah, keep spreading the word. Talk to us. Hang out with us. We like to talk, obviously. So, all right, I'm gonna get us out of here. I'm gonna take us out.
Ciao.